The cabal ain't running. The cabal ain't running. Who let Joe Biden run the whole damn country? Who let Joe Biden steal all the money? The cabal ain't running. The cabal ain't running. G7, G20 run the whole darn country. Who let Joe Biden take trips to the island with all his family? Actors and celebrities, still human trafficking, snatching all the babies and children. Wondering when he folks head to the pen. But really, all I'm just
And welcome. Here we are at the Capitol Mouse House at LiveONETV in New York. I'm here with my special guest, Josefine Aronson, a political consultant, and she knows more about New York politics than just about anybody I know. Welcome back to the studio.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And help us sort it all out. So what are your feelings right now politically? Are the people doing okay, or are we under the gun?
Well, first I want to thank you for having me. It's been about over a year.
Yeah.
Right? That's a lot has happened over a year. And I also wanted to thank you and give you props because some of the topics that you covered, no one's covering it in New York. It's a hot potato. So I really appreciate your hard work. And I just want to let you know my favorite episodes is when you covered the victims in Bragg's. It's when the
violent crimes in New York.
That's it.
Yeah.
You've had the dubious distinction, 100 murders in 466 days in office. Never before on both sides, Republican, Democrat, have you ever had 100 murders in Manhattan in 466 days. On day one, Alvin Bragg says he was not going to prosecute felonies. They give you all their fake statistics. Well, if you don't arrest nobody, you don't have no statistics. Are you kidding me?
And you interviewed, what was her name? Melody Hines.
Mm-hmm.
And you spoke to the House Speaker, Johnson. Yeah. You interviewed him.
Yes, I did.
So
in my district, where I come from, my constituents are seeing videos of violent crime in New York City on our local news stations routinely. And so people are concerned about this, and I think it's important that we let the victims speak about it.
Congressman, LiveONE.TV, do you think that too much money has been spent by the DA's office on the Trump indictment instead of that money being put into other cases involving the many citizens of the city?
Well, we have a lot more questions than we have answers about how much money's been spent, but certainly it's a big concern of ours. If federal dollars that have been allocated to the District Attorney's Office in Manhattan have been used for these other pursuits, then that's an issue that we have to look at.
But thank you for that. And then you and I had our program where we discussed election integrity in New York. And that was a real eye-opener. And one of the big takeaways, something you said that I haven't forgotten, is that Marley Hornick and her group, New York Citizens Audit, which has been auditing our elections, you were describing some of the findings of the New York Alliance, and you described New York's election problem as industrial level of corruption.
Absolutely.
It's not just a few people stuffing 10 or 20 ballots away. New York has a organized crime. It appears to be organized crime.
Absolutely.
At an industrial level.
Right. Well, that group was New York Citizen Audit, and it was the citizens during the lockdown that took the Board of Elections and took them to task because they wanted public records and they refused. So they used the Freedom of Information Act to get those public records, and they did. And that just started the whole snowball where they realized they went into the elections and they realized that it's the algorithms that were put in the software that is actually selecting the candidates.
It's heartbreaking.
It is, because everything you notice now, everything you're witnessing has to do with the election fraud. Because this is how you put in your sociopaths.
Yeah.
They have, your communists, your sociopaths, your self-interest groups. They're all selected. And unfortunately, New York really doesn't have a Republican Party. It is one big, that's my opinion, that's from my experience, there's one big party. Because the stuff that the citizens themselves discovered, the Republicans and the Democrats have done everything possible to keep that information from the citizens. So the citizens' information and findings of the discrepancies are kept from the citizens from both parties, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, there you have it, folks. We don't even know how to get out of our election problem with the corruption in New York. We don't know how to get out of it. Like we mentioned, Marley Hornick, the director of New York Citizens Alliance, she's been collecting evidence for a few years, and she did submit it to the New York Attorney General. They were not interested in looking at it. They've asked the Department of Justice and the FBI, I believe. They're not interested in looking. Marley ended up going to a sheriff and did get some help from a sheriff who said, hey, this is wrong, and he looked into it, but it was too much just for him to do alone. And so what do we do in New York? We're kind of prisoners. We did have Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch, and they did mount a lawsuit to get the voter rolls cleaned up a little bit, and they did have some success.
Yes, they had, well, they have to clean up about, over the years, it's a total of around maybe 5 million. But he was able to do like maybe, I'm guessing somewhere like 400 names cleaned out from the voter rolls. It's a drop in the bucket, but you know, he started. The good thing is that Marley had some progress upstate New York.
Did she?
Yes, there were some commissioners and some legislators that were willing to back her up. The sheriffs sat with her for about 5 hours, and they agreed there was something wrong, but the higher ups they couldn't do anything because of it, you know. So their hands are tied. But the good news is that since there was so much corruption in New York and couldn't get any leeway, she started going to other states. So she's working with the states right now. And the good thing is that there are some lawyers that were willing to sit and talk. Like, I don't know where they're up to with that, because once it starts with lawyers, you know, it's a really hush-hush kind of thing. The good news, because there is good news, Marley Hornick, who is the director of New York Citizen Audit, which you can go on the website, is auditnewyork.com. There is good news, and I'm here to bring it to you. New York Citizen Audit didn't get much traction in the city of New York. It's just extremely corrupt, and none of the sitting candidates can prove that their seats are legit. So they had to go outside to other states. So I think the last time I heard, she was working with 12 other states, and now it's called the United Sovereigns of America. And there are lawyers are involved in just looking at the information. That's the last. I don't know. I don't have an update, but it's going in the right direction. I believe all this is going to come out eventually. So, and the reason why I say it's really corrupt here, a lot of Republicans and Democrats that I've spoken to about don't want to touch this topic. And now all of a sudden, since there is a 2024 Trump election, you know, they were very silent about the election fraud, but Trump and election fraud go hand in hand. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know how you can support Trump and use his name, but then yet you skirt from the topic of, you know, election fraud and interference.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to a lot of media and they don't want to touch it. Newsmax is one of them. I spoke to 3 reporters in Newsmax. They won't touch it. And Greg Kelly, I personally gave him a stack of information and he didn't report it. I spoke to a gentleman by Tobacco.
Johnny Tobacco. He does a program with Kara Castronova called Wise Guys.
Right.
He used to, yeah.
Right. So You know, I admire Kara because, I mean, she's the only one that I know in New York that took on January 6th and raised a lot of money. And she did a lot of good coverage on the illegal migrant situation.
Right.
But she won't touch the election fraud.
Yeah, I wonder why it is. I wonder if they're afraid of alienating some of their audience who thinks that, you know, it's not an issue, you know, and they just think it's Trumpers complaining about things.
Right. And it's a possibility that the higher ups don't want to talk about it. Our hands are tied.
The networks may have received a letter from the Department of Homeland Security warning them not to sow doubt and suspicion on the integrity of our elections, and or they could have restrictions on their broadcast license or penalties.
Well, then you can't call yourself a journalist.
No, yeah.
You can't. I mean, that's all I hear them say, that they are journalists. You can't call yourself that. You can call yourself a broadcaster, or, you know, maybe somebody can hand you something and you talk about it, but you can't consider, you can't call yourself a journalist.
Not
not
if
going
you're
to tell the people
censoring yourself.
Absolutely.
No way.
And I was in a Zoom meeting with her, and I wanted her feedback. Actually, the Brooklyn Tea Party did a Zoom, and for her, I was on it. They censored me, and I was taken back, because if she's taking, you know, her issue with her signatures.
Yes,
Okay.
she ran for New York Senate, and a couple of years ago, you had to get 15,000 signatures if you wanted to run outside of the main parties and have your name on the ballot. You had to get 15,000 signatures. The Republicans and Democrats got together in New York and said, you know what? Let's bump it up to 45,000 signatures, which is really hard to do. I support the New York Citizens Alliance, and I wish those investigations would get underway. They've actually given evidence over to law enforcement and in New York, and to the Attorney General is not interested in looking at their evidence of election fraud.
Well, it was also given to the GOP. It was given to the DNC, the RNC. It was given to Letitia James. I mean, I don't know who else. I mean, I don't know who else. I mean, it was given to everyone.
Yeah.
The finding, and these are the citizens that did that. So if you are for the citizens, why don't you let the citizens speak? They're not saying that it's fraud. They just want somebody to look into the discrepancies that they found themselves. And in Audit New York, you'll see the discrepancies.
Yeah.
They posted it. It's no lie. It was given to the commissioner. I mean, I personally gave them to the commissioners when they were certifying the votes. I went downtown, and after they certified everything, I gave them the information. So the commissioners, so either two things, either if you're signing an election fraud without checking, that's illegal. And if you're signing after you did see it, it's illegal. So I honestly believe it's all gonna come out. I forgot to bring my aluminum tinfoil hat, but
well, I'm with you.
I was going to bring it and I forgot.
Look, anybody who questions, there obviously was election fraud after we found out that the Hunter Biden story in 2020 was suppressed. That's the end of the story. The Department of Homeland Security and the intelligence agencies pressured social media companies not to release that story, and that's voter fraud right there, then and there. And the reason is because they already knew that laptop was real.
Right.
The FBI had it for 2 years by that point. They knew within the first 2 weeks that it was real. The Hunter Biden's laptop that came from the repair center. The FBI verified it right away.
Yeah, all of a sudden a laptop is found in a center. I don't believe any of that, but that's just me.
Oh, okay.
You know, but
you mean you don't think he got high as a kite and left his?
Oh,
laptop?
I know he got high as a kite. But
That part we know.
That I know for sure. But I don't think he just left that around. But that's just my theory.
Well, we have a conspiracy?
Yes,
here?
we got it again.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, is the laptop real or not?
Yes, the laptop is real.
You mean they stole it to put it in the?
No, I think I think this is all an investigation. I think actually, my opinion is that this whole court case in New York with Trump, they were able to submit all that information, and that's why he got a gag order. I believe that's all present. I think this has all been planned. I think the best way to get these crooks is for them to come out of their holes and allow the people to see the crimes.
Yeah.
I mean, people are noticing. People are seeing what's been going on. Sometimes they can't get, the finger on the pulse and know exactly, but they know about the elections. They know it. And you know how I know? Now they're silent. When people are silent, when they were screaming and yelling and everything, trust me, they're realizing it.
Well, it goes deeper too. There's people like former CIA Director Mike Morrell. I don't know if you've had a chance to learn about who he is.
No.
But he's just one more clown he was one of the 51 intel officials who wrote that letter that Hunter Biden's laptop story had the hallmarks of Russian disinformation.
Oh God, here we go again.
Mike Morrell, former CIA agent, he signed that letter. Not only did he sign it, he worked with the present Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, to make sure that letter got written. And I just saw Mike Morrell back on television. Of course, Anthony Blinken is our Secretary of State, and he was behind pushing the phony intel letter too. So it's really odd to think that we're surrounded by criminals. And I think that they have been emboldened because of the lack of oversight and real accountability.
Yeah, they infiltrated everything. The judicial system. I mean, look at all the Trump's traitors. I mean, the DAs, the Republicans, the Board of Elections. That's another group. We need a whole different episode on the Board of Elections. But I think what I wanted to change because I wanted to talk about, because you covered it also, the Bronx rally. Trump. I was there.
Okay.
And I felt so vindicated because New York turned red in 2020.
Yeah.
Okay. California turned red in 2020.
Right.
And if you was to ask Trump, he'll say, yes, it did.
Yeah.
And that to me was proof. And I know the media spinned it and said, oh, well, they're starting to come out more. No, we're not starting to come out more. The Bronx is a very conservative borough. They don't realize that Spanish people are conservative. A lot of them are. They'll rather have all the kids running around. They're not into abortion. Those are their hardcore beliefs. So when Trump was pro-life, they got on board. But you're not going to know that unless you're there and you talk to them. And I mean, my parents are Cuban and my stepdad raised me from Puerto Rico. I lived in the Bronx. I know the people. So when I talk, I'm not interviewing, politicians. I'm talking with the people. So there were in 2020 a lot of people that converted, like Queens did. The biggest theft of election was Queens, and they flipped for Trump. Staten Island is predominantly Republicans. Yeah. Okay. Upstate, they're predominantly Republicans. Long Island is split, and then most Democrats are in Brooklyn and Manhattan. So why is there like 90%, and I'm just throwing that number out, Democrats in office? What does that tell you? Yeah, total corruption. You just bring your chair a couple of inches more so we're both in the middle. Okay. Yeah, that's because you were on the side there too much. So going back to the Bronx rally, I think Trump himself is shocked that there were that many people there. Now, what the fake media started filming in the morning, when people started coming in. Yeah. The park only held 3,500. Right. Okay. That was it. That was it. They weren't allowed to have more. They weren't allowed to have more, and I don't think they expected that many people. Well, guess what? There were about 20,000 outside. Right. Okay, and there were Hispanics with Jews and executives and whites and blacks and middle class and I mean Dominicans talking with Italians. It was the way New York. I was so encouraged by that. Yeah. I'm like, what happened to New York? I mean, what's going on? What happened to the Bronx? What happened to the Bronx? Right. But they went out. Yeah, I think the Bronx is an issue, definitely in New York politics, but in our presidential race, the Bronx is in there right now. And you watched our friend Dion Powell
Kara Castronova, about 4 months ago, they went up to the Bronx and interviewed people and found there was Trump supporters in the Bronx. And that's when I decided to go there with Dion and conduct a poll where we gave people a piece of paper that said Biden, Trump, and RFK. And we said, we don't need you to sign this, but just check which one you're going to vote for and put it in this bag. And so that's what we did. And we had 75% of people voting for Trump. There were 25% who were angry and they weren't going to have anything to do with it.
Right.
They went Democrat, but we were surprised that there was support for him. And so now people are saying that Trump should, well, the first thing that Trump should come there. I really didn't think he would come, but we were really surprised. Donald Trump held a rally in the Bronx, and even though it was several weeks ago, I can say it like it's breaking news because it is a huge story.
I mean, it was globally. I mean, everybody was like, wow. I mean, New York really, it's because the media and the propaganda has been saying that we are not for Trump. That's such a lie.
Yeah.
When New York turned red in 2020.
I felt it did too. And so now people are talking, he did this great rally a few weeks ago in the Bronx. Now people are saying he should come back and go to Yankee Stadium, if you can believe it, you know. And
I would love it.
Yeah, and there was also a rumor that he was going to get Madison Square Garden. Did you hear that one?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they're working on that.
Yeah, me too. It's too much fun, actually. And the Bronx rally was a great idea. I think Trump missed the opportunity to customize his speech for the Bronx. He kind of just went over general things that he does all the time.
You got to get all boroughs. So
yeah,
and you already had a city council from the Bronx. So
yeah.
But this is what reminds me about that too. There's a lot of candidates that are going in their run that Trump is supporting them. If you notice, Trump didn't call any of those people. He didn't call Tina Forte up to the stage.
Right.
He didn't call Mike, it escapes my name. He's the one that's running for Santos seat.
Oh, okay.
Is he running for Santos seat?
Yeah.
So he didn't call the candidates that are running up on stage.
Right. Yeah,
that's a red flag.
Well, he also stayed away from the protesters, which there's a lot of support in New York where, you know, people are really angry about the genocide going on. And I think that's probably going to intensify. We haven't seen, you know, the height of this. It's ongoing. And Trump, you know, he came out and said you got to finish the job. And a lot of people felt that was a betrayal. You know, Trump came out and said to Israel, you guys got to go and finish the job. And I think he's going to lose some support there. We'll have to see how it goes.
I don't believe so because it's very strategic. Because people are very ignorant of what goes on in the Middle East. And I didn't want to get into this topic because it's a very touchy and
we
very
don't need
messy.
to.
No, I'll talk a little bit about it. But from my studies and my discussions with Israelis and discussions with Arabs, the government is involved in all this, in both sides. These religious leaders, the government, Mossad, whatever you want to call them, it's the same thing here in the United States. It's not the people. And we got to be very clear on that. You do need to finish the job with Hamas. You do need to finish the job with the Israeli government, because even the Israelis are protesting. They don't want this. And this is the thing, I speak for the people, okay? The average person that lives in Palestine, which that's not even the correct name, but the average person that lives is 40 years old, okay? Their parents have been eliminated. These people have internet. They want their lives. They want to go to school. They want to do the things that we do, where we go to the grocery store, where we raise our families, where we go to school. That's what they want. It's all these religious leaders, and we have to call that out. We cannot just brush it and say Palestine. We cannot brush it and say Israel. You cannot brush it and say, you just can't do that. That's what they want. All those Khazarian mafias, or whatever you want to call them, they call them Illuminati, whatever you want to call them. That's how they fund both sides of the war. That's what they do. They've been doing. Soros has been doing that since he was a young man. That man's like, what, 100 now?
Yeah.
So I think that for him not to get into it is a very strategic way, because if he chooses, you have to choose your words wisely, okay? Because there's a lot of ignorance when it comes to the Middle East. I'm going to be honest with you. There really is. So I'm just going to say that about that.
All right.
So I'm always for the people, for the children.
We'll keep it to our own neighborhood.
Exactly. So.
Yeah. And what else has come across? What else have you been learning about our process of social organization through political?
Well, I've spoken to a lot of politicians. I've spoken to Tina Forte. I've spoken to
She's running for Alexandria Ocasio's seat.
Again.
Oh, she ran against her before too?
Yes.
Okay.
So now she's, mentioning that the GOP is backing her up. So I wouldn't share that with anyone, but let's see how it works out for her. But she knows about the election fraud.
Right.
Never talked about it. I've invited her through other mutual acquaintances to come to our Zoom meetings. So especially because I'm saying this, if you're running, okay, and you're spending all this energy and all this money, and you keep telling people, go out and vote, the people, your finger's not on the pulse, because if you notice every election, there's less and less people voting.
Wow.
Because you're not touching the heart of the problem.
Yeah.
They know, first of all, I didn't vote for congestive pricing.
Yeah.
Who came up with that? Okay. So my vote doesn't count. The people know it already. And it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. It's not happening. I'll give you an example. There's one NYPD retired first responder, okay, Marilyn Miller. Everybody in her neighborhood was like, I'm voting for you. I'm voting for you.
Yeah.
Do you know that her opponent got 90% of the vote?
Huh.
I mean, Rinaldi is another one too. I worked with him for a little bit.
Jonathan Rinaldi.
He was running for city council in Forest Hills.
Right.
Now I'm seeing this guy. I'm like, wow, this guy is a firecracker. I mean, he's more bold than I am.
He's a lot
and
of
I'm
fun.
bold. And I said, he's going to every freaking hotel, exposing the illegal migrants, exposing the mayor, exposing the city councils in that district.
Yeah.
He went outside of the district. He went to Flushing, which is Vicky Palladino's district. He went to all these different places.
He came to LiveONETV a couple of times. He was here.
He was there. And now all of a sudden, all the city councils started coming out to talk about the illegal migration in the hotels. Now, I got on that bandwagon because 85,000 children are missing from the board. I said, okay, let me work with him. Yeah. Okay, his style might be a little different than mine, but the fact is that he's pointing out the pedophilia. He's pointing out the fact that they knew about that. And I can prove it. I have paperwork that show that in March, and this is their own transcripts from their own meetings, okay? There is several city councils that met together in March 23rd of March of last year, and they were already talking about the process, how much money they spend, they spend millions of dollars. So this has been ongoing. Right. So now all of a sudden, you're fighting against the very decisions that you made about the millions of dollars you're spending on illegals and all the effort that you put in. I mean, they talked to the hospitals, they made arrangements with security, they did all, this was early March. So they already knew this was coming. I mean, I wish they would put that much effort on you and your insurance, health insurance and my insurance, and, being able to put food on the table. But this is. You're
going to get me angry, Josephine. It is hard not to get angry. Do you find it times
listen, I have to pray.
Right, that you don't get angry.
Because it's okay to get angry. It's just not lashing out.
Yeah, there's healthy anger, and then there's anger that eats away at one inside. And if
you don't get angry, I'm going to think there's something wrong with you.
Right.
Okay, so
that's right. If you're not angry about this, something's wrong with you. But I always catch my pulse and say, hold on. be careful because it'll start to eat away at you. Politics can be really thankless, and people do, like me, work at it for years for no money. We do it because of what we call justice or whatever altruistic reasons we have. And if you do get involved in activism, make sure that you surround yourself with friends and keep your sense of humor, because it's really grisly hard work. It's really hard to find out your elections are a joke. You're being insulted. If you don't get that, then you're not understanding what's happening around you.
I think what's very important too is you need to educate yourself. And I understand people are working hard to put food on the table, but you really have to know what's going on around
So
you.
let me get it. So our elections are fake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For the
I'm
most
with you.
part.
I'm with you. And talking to you more and hearing about you, I'm kind of informed from what we do here, and interviewing Marley and also other people, listening to Patrick Byrne talk about election fraud. I feel like even today you've helped move my, perspective on this. And even a year ago, you and I were shaking our head about election fraud, but you're making me realize, right, until the elections are fixed, nothing matters. Nothing matters. But if you want to have your political show and have your debates and go through the charade of voting, go right ahead. You can do it for the next 100 years. But until these elections are fixed, it's an illusion.
Absolutely.
And everything, nothing else should matter than getting people from whatever their political party is agreeing that we have a decent system with minimal corruption in it. I keep on thinking, Josephine, why can't people just go public with their vote? And so I've discussed it. And the reason is because a lot of people value privacy in this when they vote. They don't want to have everyone know who they're voting for. Why? Well, they might lose their job. If your boss is a Republican and you're a Democrat, you don't want to tell them that you love Joe Biden. They might fire you or whatever the situation is.
It's just too many hands are in the pot, and there's too much self-interest and too many cronies. And I'll give you an example. I am 1199. That was my union. I used to get phone calls about, oh, are you going to vote for Hillary Clinton?
Yeah.
And then I find out that they're using my union dues
Right.
for her campaign. You never asked me.
Wow.
First of all, that's my money that you're deducting.
Yeah.
All right. And you didn't come to me and ask me. That just goes to show you the amount of corruption. Okay. I'm talking about GOP, and I say it on record, and it's not something I say it all the time. The Board of Elections, the unions, especially the teachers' unions, they're the worst. Okay, so people, you're going up against Goliath.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Attorney Bobby Cox. I was shocked that she won in court because she was fighting, and the politicians are now backing her up. But when she first started to go against Hochul on the medical camp, which is really a concentration camp,
Right.
she literally won in court, and I was in shock that she was able to find a judge that agreed with her. That is unconstitutional for any governor to choose whether or not it's unconstitutional for any government or any governor or mayor to make decisions whether or not they should put you away because you coughed the wrong way. And we're talking about involving children as well.
Right.
So that's so unconstitutional. So she won the first time around. And then what did the governor do? Take your taxpayer money to appeal it.
Right.
Because they want to put you away. That's what they want to do.
Right.
Listen, my parents were born in Cuba.
Yeah.
Okay. We learned about the Marxist books over dinner that we didn't even know it was the Marxist book. Okay.
Mhm.
We couldn't go home and say, oh, I had a bad day. My mother's like, did you lose your freedom? Because that's not a bad day. Because somebody made fun of you. That's not a bad day. You know what I mean? So I guess I was groomed for this. Because this is what's going to happen. If it doesn't turn around, you are a complete slave. This is tyranny.